Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Pablo Arturo Lopez Lijosa, and I am the Head of Communications of the Urban Biodiversity Hub. I am also the project lead for the development of the Urban Nature Index.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Holger. I'm based here in Toronto, Canada, where I've worked on a number of different environmental issues, including on urban biodiversity. And so I'm absolutely pleased to work on this consulting project as a research analyst.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Ray Pierce. I'm a co-founder of Urban Biodiversity Hub, and my research specializes in urban biodiversity engagement, communications, measurement, and management.
And hello, everyone. My name is Mika Tan, co-founder of the Urban Biodiversity Hub, and I bring to this consultancy expertise in stakeholder engagement, as well as the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD, in particular the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. So let's talk about the features of the Urban Nature Index. There are systems and frameworks that assist or support cities to measure or improve their impact on nature and biodiversity. But what really makes the UNI unique and special within this landscape of systems are these reasons. First, it is flexible. Cities of different capacities and contexts can take this one index. Second, it is comprehensive. It focuses on outcomes for biodiversity at all levels, at the local level within the city, at the regional level, and at the global level. But it also takes into account the connections between biodiversity and our social systems, particularly so in a more human-centric context. Third, the Urban Nature Index has science-based indicators that are particular to the urban context. And fourth, this index uses an improvement-oriented methodology. So it looks at trends over time rather than having it be heavily influenced by the current status of the city. And finally, it takes a collaborative approach, harnessing the strengths of existing tools and standards wherever possible. So for example, some of the indicators in the UNI can be replaced by indicators that are being used in other systems, such as the SDGs or the Singapore Index, particularly and especially so if the city is already measuring and gathering data for these indicators. Here's a quick overview of the development process. First, the IUCN UNI Technical Expert Group provided initial strategic direction for the UNI, and then a literature review was done, also to understand all the other similar systems that measure in some way urban biodiversity. And then with the literature review, an initial set of indicators were compiled, and then they were tested through two ways. Feedback was gathered through a survey, and 24 cities around the world responded to the survey. And secondly, the initial set of indicators were tested through a pilot testing program with 6 select cities. These cities are Mexico City, Lagos, Paris, Singapore, Saanich in Canada, as well as Kuridabat. With the feedback from the survey, as well as the pilot testing, the initial set of indicators was revised, and today we are unveiling it at the IUCN World Conservation Congress.
Thank you, Mika. To derive the set of indicators of the UNI, we used both a deductive and an inductive approach, meaning we relied on 2 established conceptual frameworks, namely the driver, pressure, state, impact, and response, or DIPSR for short, model as described by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Now, according to the US EPA, the DIPSR model is a systems thinking framework based on understanding the component parts of a system and how they relate to and interact with one another. The DIPSR model in particular is commonly used in environmental management, context to demonstrate the cause and effect relationship between the interacting components of social, economic, and environmental systems. In short, it connects the ecological factors with socioeconomic ones. For its part, the urban watershed impact area helps to conceptualize the wide and varied landscapes and seascapes that can be harmed and are protected by cities. Cities can contribute to harmful activities, such as by allowing sprawling development that destroys nearby ecosystems, or by contributing to the demand for rare earth materials obtained via destructive mining practices. But cities can also reduce harms, such as by protecting mountaintops that serve as reservoirs for drinking water, or adopting certified sustainable harvested lumber products for buildings. These harms and protections can be both direct and indirect, impacting various landscapes that are sometimes many times larger than the city's municipal area. As such, the three scales shown in the diagram, the in-boundary, hinterland, and global, encourage cities to consider impact areas outside their borders that result from regional resource flows and cycles and trade. The in-boundary scale is defined as the politically defined boundary of the urban area, which can be problematic in that political boundaries rarely align with ecological or other functional boundaries. The hinterland scale is the nearby territory adjacent to the urban political boundary with a direct economic or other functional link to the city, such as farmlands that deliver food products to the city. The global scale refers to the impacts that a city has in far-flung locations connected by transportation lines, cultural influence, or other forces of globalization. Now, the three impact areas that are also shown on the diagram remind cities of the indirect drivers they can influence, such as market forces, supply chains, and societal norms of consumption. And last but not least, the urban watershed impact area is a concept that is centered on equity and justice that underscores the need for transformational systems that actively oppose oppression of both human and non-human beings, recognizing that these oppressions are rooted in the same self-reinforcing mindsets and power structures that prioritize the self over others, whether the others are other human beings or other forms of life. The themes under which the set of indicators of the uni were developed are therefore a reflection of both the DIPSR and the urban watershed impact area conceptual frameworks. With that, I will now turn it over to my colleague, Jennifer Ray Pierce, to walk us through a sample set of the 30 indicators of the uni.
Thanks, Michael. I'll be starting by reviewing the 6 themes under which we've organized the 30 indicator topics for the Urban Nature Index. These themes are meant to comprehensively cover the concepts that Michael just covered, and also to use the DIPSR model. So you'll notice drivers, pressures, status. Theme 5 is on impacts and responses. So theme 1 is consumption drivers, which is meant to target those drivers that are related to consumption choices and consumption options available in cities. Theme 2, human pressures, is about those pressures that humans put on ecosystems that impact degradation of ecosystems and biodiversity loss. 3 and 4 themes on habitat and species status are about the direct measurement of the status of particular species of interest and the habitats that support them. Theme 5, nature's contributions to people, is about ecosystem services and also has equity components that discuss how those contributions impact different populations. And finally, in Theme 6, we have governance responses, which is about how municipal governments and their partners respond to and attempt to alleviate environmental harms. Now I'll go through each one of the themes and touch on particular indicator topics within those themes that are of interest. You'll notice that each theme has within it 5 indicator topics, and they're described in the title, and I'll be going through just a couple of them today. So under consumption drivers, we cover general material consumptions, the consumption that occurs via trade and other types of material flows that occur in, through, and ending in a city, greenhouse gas emissions, dietary choices, and also water use. So the first one, indicator topic 1.1 on material consumption, is an estimation of the consumption of goods per person, and this is estimated by measuring the waste produced. So we ask that participants calculate the daily average volume of solid waste produced, total in the city, including household, commercial, and industrial sources, and this is then divided by population. Alternately, the city may also use ecological footprint calculations if this is something that they have available, and we're seeking the trend of that number. So a decreasing trend is what we're hoping to see, and that's how the scoring would happen. So in the first year, if there's no pre-existing historical data, they would just be in that middle score of baseline measured, looking for trends over time. If there is historical data available, then in the first year of participating in the indicator, then a score could be provided either in the positive or the negative direction, depending on the trend. So this sets up the structure that we'll see for each one of the indicator topics. The next one that I will cover is 1.4 on unsustainable diets. This indicator topic is about the sustainability of diets according to the use of land and over-harvesting concerns. So there are 2 approaches that are accepted here other than the alternative of ecological footprint that I discussed before. The first is looking at particularly harmful foods such as red meat and seafood consumption, not counting any indigenous or traditional consumption. And the second one is just measuring the proportion of food that traveled more than 200 miles from its production location. So a city can choose to go by food type or food travel mileage. And again, we're looking at the trends, seeking a decreasing trend for a positive score. In theme 2, under human pressures, we cover topics of sprawl, of various pollution types, water, noise, and light pollution, and finally, invasive species. The sprawl topic looks at population density as a measure of sprawl in order to assess the ongoing level of sprawl, and provides 2 options for calculations. One is to calculate average population density of the developed land in the boundaries of the local government, and the second one follows the SDG indicator 11.3.1. Either one may be used to develop a ongoing trend. The next one will be indicator 2.3 on noise pollution that I'll be talking about in more detail today. This indicator topic is about assessing the level of noise pollution, and it's different than typical noise pollution measures in that it's concerned with noise in natural habitats rather than noise particular to human populated areas. And it would likely require cities to take measurements if data doesn't pre-exist in at least 5 outdoor locations seeking occurrences of noise above the 55 decibel threshold. So while this might require some original measurements, the device is relatively easy to obtain and the measurements don't take too long to take. So we're hoping that this measure would be something that cities could do relatively easily and would provide new data that hadn't been under consideration before. Under theme 3, habitat status, we cover the following topics. Land use and protection measures, the restoration of land-based ecosystems, shoreline and riverbank restoration to cover aquatic systems, vegetation coverage, and connectivity of habitats. For indicator 3.3 on shoreline and riverbank health, here we're attempting a proxy measure for the health and the restoration level of aquatic ecosystems within the city via the shorelines and riverbanks of those systems. So we're asking cities to calculate the ratio of shoreline that has been naturalized or has been natural compared to engineered edges for streams, lakes, and other areas, including marine shorelines. The natural shorelines would be those that are vegetated and would include those that are restored or are artificial but follow the same characteristics as a naturalized shoreline would, as opposed to engineered shorelines. And we're looking for an increasing measure of naturalized versus engineered shorelines within the city. Under Theme 4, for species status, we cover the following topics: animal and plant species, functional diversity, microbiota, and endemic species. For the microbiota measure, we're looking for a measurement of the health of the soils and the microbiotic systems in both aquatic and terrestrial areas. So we asked cities to choose 5 representative sites across the city that would include both terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems, and to measure decomposition rates in each location following standardized methods. They would calculate an average rate of decomposition. We provide an approach for both terrestrial and aquatic locations that involves leaf litter or similar proxies for leaf litter decomposing over time, and we're looking for a positive trend in terms of decomposition rates. Under Theme 5, Nature's Contributions to People, we cover the following topics: exposure to nature, access to nature, a human health measure, livelihoods and job-related measure, and sacred natural sites measure. For indicator 5.2, access to nature, we are looking to measure access to natural areas, in particular to vulnerable urban communities. So this particular measure has an advanced and a basic option based on the capacity of the city. So at the basic level, we're seeking a percentage of residents within walkable distance of a public open access natural area. This is for low capacity cities. And in our higher capacity cities, we're asking for the advanced measure to calculate the percentage of residents within the lowest income quintile, or lowest 20%, that are within this walkable distance of 300 meters of a public open access natural area. This is also a good example of an indicator topic that has an alternative found in the Singapore Index. So cities that have calculated the Singapore Index indicator 13 may use that result in lieu of the calculation suggested here. And we're asking for cities to measure their multi-year trend over time, starting with the baseline and then going over time, seeking a positive number for increasing access to nature. In the livelihoods indicator topic, we are measuring support for livelihoods that stem from conservation and sustainable management. In this case, we provide 3 categories that can be used to measure livelihoods, and we ask that cities following the basic fulfillment of the UNI select one of the categories, while advanced select 2. Those categories are the number of people following vocational training intended to transition or funnel workers into green-collar jobs, actual green-collar jobs themselves, so those working in a green-collar job, or finally, the third category is those people that are participating in a payment for ecosystem services or other type of direct monetary incentive for stewarding or managing natural resources sustainably. Under the final theme of governance responses, we cover the following indicator topics: planning, law and policy, education measures, management of natural spaces, and then finally incentives and participation. So indicator topic 6.2, law and policy, is about assessing government regulatory efforts for biodiversity and ecosystem services. This one also has a basic and an advanced option. In both cases, we're asking for government adoption of local policies and bylaws that commit to the enforcement, implementation, or direct support needed to improve indicators that are covered in the themes of this index. So under the 6 themes, we're looking for local policies that are addressing the issues that are raised in the UNI. And for the basic level of completion, we're looking for at least one indicator under a minimum of 3 themes being covered, and under advanced, we ask for 1 under each of the 6 themes. And now I'll pass this on to Pablo, who will discuss how to apply the Urban Nature Index.
Now, how can cities apply the Urban Nature Index? Well, every 1 to 5 years, cities will have to complete a short capacity assessment questionnaire, which will determine the number of indicators they must complete based on their capacities and whether they should complete the basic or the advanced options for each of the indicator topics when available. Second, they have to complete the indicators within each theme. Some indicator topics have alternative compliance options, such as by completing equivalent indicators from other frameworks, like the Singapore Index. The results will then be reported to IUCN via a platform that is yet to be developed. The minimum number of indicators is set based on the city capacity as follows. We have low capacity cities, which will have to fulfill at least 1 indicator topic from each theme, with a basic level, making it a total of 6 indicators. Then we have medium capacity cities, which will have to fulfill at least 2 indicator topics from each theme, also from the basic level, making it a total of 12 indicators. We have high capacity cities, which will have to fulfill at least 3 indicator topics from each theme in the advanced level, making a total of 18 indicators. Then we have mega capacity cities, which are required to fulfill at least 4 indicator topics from each theme in the advanced level, making it a total of 24 indicators. And finally, we have the champions city, which will have to fulfill all the indicators in the advanced level, making it a total of 30 indicators. What are the next steps in the development of the Urban Nature Index? Well, it has to be reviewed by IUCN members and experts. Then there is the web-based platform to be developed based on the feedback from these experts and members. And finally, we have to recruit initial cities to apply the index and gather additional feedback. Thank you very much for your attention.